Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very senior and accomplished professional and coach from the US, Joelle Lydon. Joelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Joelle is the founder of Your Love by Design, and she's a relationship expert. So Joelle, today let's talk about Your Love by Design, relationships, and coaching. Tell me a little bit about Your Love by Design and your motivation to start it.
So the work that, this body of work called Your Love by Design was really an attempt to be able to serve and support both men and women and being able to engage in relationships from their strengths. So typically I work with, both men and women who are struggling with being able to sustain their relationships long-term, both in a personal and in a professional way. So one is always going to have conflict.
Correct.
One is always going to have difficult conversations, whether you're in a leadership position or whether you're in a romantic relationship or a marriage of many, many years.
Right.
So the work that we do at Love by Design, at Your Love by Design, really is a way to retrain individuals who don't have the skill set necessary to be able to navigate with certainty those difficult areas in relationship that continually trip them up and disconnect them from other people and from the outcomes that they're looking to be able to live into.
Amazing. So Joelle, would you be able to share one or two examples, without any names, of course, for our viewers and listeners?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm reminded of a woman, Lauren, who came to me with difficulties in her relationship as councilwoman. She had just been elected, was sitting at the table with all of these other council people who had varying degrees and levels of experience. And she had stepped into this situation feeling like, I got elected, but I'm not entirely certain how to use my voice in service of the very people who elected me.
Right.
So she and I worked through the retraining process, confidence building process that is actually a 7-step process that we use at Your Love by Design that is a step-by-step process that builds confidence and skill set so that she was able to then show up in her strengths and then be able to represent the very people that elected her with a sense of confidence and skill and be able to then affect the kind of change that she was looking to be able to affect as part of her role. Wonderful. So that would be an example of some of the work that I've done, more of in a professional realm.
Correct.
In a more personal realm, I think of a client that I'm currently working with who is divorced and came to me because he was struggling with being able to find a partner. And he had tried many different kind of approaches, but kept tripping himself up with being able to create a level of intimacy with somebody. There was a lot of overprotection for him because he had been hurt as part of his marriage. And so through the process, through the 7-step process that we use at Your Love by Design, we were able to sort of work at removing some of those overprotective mechanisms and allow him to be able to show up with more of a sense of truthfulness and vulnerability so that he is now engaged in a relationship that he's been in for the last year that continues to grow. He's created a lovely foundation from which to build this relationship and to sustain it over time, managing through those difficult conversations, the negotiations, the conflicts, the agreements that need to happen when one is in a budding or new relationship.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. And, you mentioned the 7-step process in both your examples. Tell us, what are the 7 steps?
So the 7 steps that I work with have to do with so I'll just sort of go through the names.
Yeah.
They all in a brief description
Absolutely.
of what they're meant to be working on. So the first step is agency.
Mm-hmm.
And what that has to do with being able to support somebody with taking personal responsibility for what they have co-created in their life, either professionally or personally, the if you will, the mess that they created, right? So to take responsibility and the retraining that needs to happen as part of that. The second piece, the second step is sovereignty. So once that awareness around what was created is had and a better understanding, then there's now a possibility of beginning to take some of that back and begin the retraining process of any of the limiting beliefs that engendered the result in the first place. The third step is creativity. We are human, we are creative beings.
Correct.
And so beginning to look at how to innovate and create a different outcome is the next step. From there, so once we have that beginning foundation of like, ooh, this is what I created, I'm beginning to retrain and I'm beginning to innovate on what it might look like next, then we look into desire. Okay. How do you want this? What do you want? What are you looking? What is the outcome that you're looking for? And then, of course, the fifth step, which is commitment. People will oftentimes feel like, oh, I've got this awareness. I understand. Good. I've got it. I can stop now. The commitment piece step is about continually making choices and actions and choices and actions and choices and actions over and over and over again until that intellectual concept of what is wanted becomes a knowing. And then that step goes into this following step, which is about potentiality. Once the commitment is made consistently, then there's a sort of an acceleration towards the potentiality of what is available to that individual, so that they can really step into that final step of the Your Love by Design process, which is the legacy that they're going to leave.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So the relationship legacy. So whether it is for your organization or whether it is for your company or whether it is for your children. So that is the final step in the Your Love by Design 7-step process.
Amazing. And, I must mention to you, the 7-step process is so fascinating. But as you were talking, I was thinking that in India, in a Hindu marriage, there are 7 steps that you take. And each step has a similar kind of a commitment to a relationship that you're building with the spouse that you're getting into marriage with. So if I find a note, I'll send it to you for your interest.
Yeah.
So
I'll have to do some research on that. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. So it's a 7-step process, and you take 7 rounds of the fire, which we considered holy. So I thought that may be of interest to you. So I thought absolutely. But this show is all about you, so I shouldn't take any more time. So, you also, Joelle, coach in all matters of love. Help me understand what you do.
So when I speak about coaching in all matters of love is because I have a philosophy around love. And that love is the fuel for all beautiful things.
Yeah.
And that at every given moment, we are making a choice that either places love at the center of it or not. And the outcome for that choice of placing love or not at the center of that choice will really dictate the outcome. So there is this need to, whether the choice is to build a solid foundation for a long-term relationship, love, marriage, or whether it is to be able to build a business from the ground up, making love or placing love at the center of every single choice is what's going to engender like this beautiful, positive potentiality and that legacy that one can leave.
Yeah.
And so that is really at the basis of everything that I do in the coaching process.
Wonderful. And, when you do get into a coaching kind of relationship with your coachee, I'd love to understand, how has your background as a relationship expert, as your founder of your Love by Design, how do you take all those learnings into a coaching relationship?
Such a great question. So it started with me. So I began my coaching career as a career coach, supporting people to move from one career to the next. And then recognizing that I personally was struggling with relationships. So the first client that your Love by Design had was me.
Okay.
And in the process of hiring mentors, doing my research, doing what was necessary to be able to build my level of confidence and my skill set around relationships, then I was able to then create this roadmap for others to be able to follow. So the process that I use has 4 elements. The element of coaching and mentorship, the element of training. So I provide trainings for my clients. So as I'm coaching them and I'm working with them and I'm noticing trends in my clients that where they are needing more support, then I create trainings to really address those trends. So that's the second element, is of the trainings. I come from an educational background, so education is a very big factor for me. The third element that I use in my practice to support my clients is creativity. So using expressive arts and intentional creativity. So art as a way to be able to come into the side door of awareness and understanding, and unconscious limiting stories and beliefs that can be explored through art. So this is art that does not require any talent, artistic talent whatsoever, but it's really just process oriented. I really follow the adage that Jung states that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will dictate your life and you will call it fate. So art-based processes allow a client to really go into that unconscious space and then have those ahas and awarenesses that they can then begin to work with that choice, action, commitments phase. The final element that I use with my clients, of course, is accountability, right? Holding them accountable, and then assignments that they receive between coaching sessions. So hopefully that answers your questions about the how I do what I do.
Absolutely. My next question to you, Joelle, is on culture. Culture, and you are in a very, very multicultural country. I wanted to ask you, how does culture impact relationships and your work in coaching?
I so love that question. Culture is both, macro and micro, right? So one, in working with an individual, has to keep in mind both the macro and the micro in mind with working with an individual, because an individual is a reflection of their own personal community, but and then family of origin, let's say, but also the greater culture as a whole. So one really, in working with an individual, has to hold both of these sort of zoom out and zoom in perspectives and toggle between the two. As a coach, right? It is important that I toggle between the two to ensure that a member or a client's needs are being met, and that I, as a coach, am honoring the culture that client is bringing to the table, right? So my experience, my culture, I was born in England. I've been living in this country for over 40 years more. So my culture is different from many of the clients that I work with.
Correct.
And I have to keep that in mind as a lens as I'm working with them, so that I'm really honoring the individual and individualizing my coaching within the sort of community context to best serve and support them.
Very interesting. So my next question to you is, how have some of the people who you have been influenced by, how have they shaped your coaching perspectives?
So I tend to work with mentors long-term. One of my core values is of relationship is long-term relationship, right? There's so much to learn from working with an individual over a long stretch of time. So I tend to stay with mentors for 10 years. I'm currently working with my mentor. We're in relationship for the last 6 years. So, so that is the first piece for me, is that working on a relationship is not something that is a quick fix, a one size fits all, and done quickly, because each new stage of relationship and at working with each of these mentors creates an opportunity for me to see within myself, what is my next growing edge in learning and development and growth. So recently I've been working with the concept of forgiveness as part of this process of placing love at the center of all my choices in regards to family of origin. So with my mentors, I've been working on that. So they've influenced me in that they've stayed with me long-term. That informs the work with my clients, and my clients stay with me long-term because they see the value of being able to uncork one aspect that opens the opportunity for another aspect to be explored, which then brings a deeper level of connection and intimacy in the relationships that matter most for them.
Fascinating. And since you just mentioned forgiveness, I've got to ask you one question on forgiveness, because I've done some work on forgiveness. How, or what, in your opinion, does the ability to forgive do to the, if I can use the word forgiver as a term, what does it do to me that I am able to say, I forgive you?
I would say that to begin with, it is not necessary to say to the individual, I forgive you. The work of forgiveness is a personal one.
Correct.
And one will then, through the process of doing that very personal, individualized work, the actions and the way that one engages with or chooses not to engage with the forgivee, if you will, will be reflected in the demonstration of the interactions with that individual.
Correct.
So I will just bring to a case in point here with my family of origin. So we've had a rocky relationship. And the forgiveness process for me and for the work that I do in Your Love by Design was really about becoming, appreciating and approving of an individual, even when they don't show up in the way that you would want them to. Not have expectations that they would be anything else but who they are. So the true work of forgiveness is being able to find peace within the relationship in whatever outcome that is, whether one can just chooses to continue with actively engaging in that relationship, or whether the choice is made not to, because that is also an option. but to then engage with the individual without needing to change them.
Amazing.
And finding peace in that, deep, calm peace in that, so that the choice to place love at the center of that relationship is the experience, both for the forgiver and the forgivee.
Well said. What a great response. Thank you. So time for one more question. And this, Joelle, is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation and everything you've just spoken about. What would you say, based on your incredible experience in so many different areas, what would you say are 3 lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away from your life, your journey, and from our conversation?
So lesson number 1 is that awareness and understanding will only get you so far.
Yeah.
You cannot stop there.
Okay.
Once awareness and understanding is had about why things didn't work out, how the conflict was created, then the key factor that will accelerate any or even create any sort of transformation will be the choice and the action over and again, over and again, over and again, for it to be moved from this intellectual awareness, understanding construct into a new way of experiencing and being with another human being. So that would be my first key that I'd like to pass forward. The second key is that you actually absolutely have the power to change the way you engage in the relationships that matter most. And this does not mean that you're actually changing the other person. You are actually changing the way that you engage with yourself first and foremost, which then changes the dance steps, which then, when you change the dance steps, other people have to dance differently with you. So there is no choice but then to change the way that they engage with you. And so the final piece is that the work of relationship transformation is really, the third key is that it's best not done alone.
Okay.
It's best done with support.
Yeah.
And with mentors, therapists, you know, a team, if you will, because it's being part of the work that we do at Love by Design is about holding witness to the change that is being had, and also holding a client to the thing that they say that they want. We tend to, as humans, make, let's say, New Year's resolutions, and by the 3rd week of the new year have forgotten about it because we are just human and that's what we do.
Well said.
So the work of relationship transformation is best done in a container with an individual who has had experience and can really serve and support in the very deep, real work of transformation.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Joelle, on that note, and your amazing pieces of 3 lessons, awareness and understanding is not enough. Act over and over again. Second, you have the power to change. And third, that relationship transportation is best done with an expert. Thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me about your Love by Design, your 7-step process of agency, sovereignty, creativity, desire, commitment, potentiality, and legacy. Thank you also for sharing your absolutely amazing perspectives on coaching. Finally, thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much. It was an honor and a pleasure to connect with you this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.